people were talking about the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, as the end of the monarchy. And yet in 2026, we are still standing.
Now, 90 years ago, the King's brother replaced the King on the throne. Now, the King's brother has placed the King in a situation which may pose an even greater challenge to the monarchy than the abdication crisis of 1936. What can and should King Charles do, and what may be happening behind the scenes at Buckingham Palace? Well, with us now is Ailsa Anderson, who was press secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Chloe.
We obviously have seen pictures of the King out at London Fashion Week yesterday, chatting to Stella McCartney, who was very animated and smiling and happy. Clearly, the King has to outwardly show that the business as usual for the palace, but it can't possibly be, can it?
Well, I think the King acted incredibly decisively yesterday by issuing that statement. It was less than 2 hours after the police had issued their own statement. And he was very clear that, the family will continue to do their duty and serve. And that is exactly what he did yesterday, championing British retail at London Fashion Week. And I think that is the monarchy. It will keep calm, it will carry on, and it will go out and serve and shine a spotlight on all the amazing work that their charities and patronages do. But clearly, it's under extraordinary circumstances, nothing that we have ever seen, ever. And this story will clearly overshadow all the work that they're doing at the moment for weeks and months to come.
Do you think the King's statement goes far enough? For example, we spoke to Roya Nikar, who's the Sunday Times royal editor, last weekend, so before Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was arrested, and she felt that the King needed to come out and do a public address, actually speak to the people. Do you feel that something like that is necessary? Is a statement enough right now?
I think at the moment, as he said in his statement, law must take its course. And I think his hands would be quite tied if he started talking openly about the case, because it might prejudice it going forward. So I think neutrality at the moment is the right thing. And of course, we must remember, it was the King that stripped Andrew of his titles last year. He took away his home, his 30-bedroom mansion on the Windsor estate, and exiled him to Norfolk. I think the monarchy is in a better state now than if Andrew was still a prince of the realm and living in Royal Lodge. So I think the King should be commended for acting so swiftly.
Of course, the King had questions shouted at him yesterday during his public engagement. He's also going to be heading to the US for a visit. I think it's in April. How tricky is it going to be for him to navigate potentially the next few months if this drags on?
Yeah, it will. Of course, it has the potential to overshadow anything that the King is doing. And of course, it's only speculation at the moment of whether he will go to the United States in April. But I hope we can think beyond this. This is all about one individual, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who has acted in the most extraordinary, abhorrent way, keeping his relationship going with the convicted paedophile. We keep learning almost on a daily basis more and more of the sordid nature of that relationship. But this is about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. This is not about the King. And I hope people will be able to see beyond that and see what the extraordinary work that the monarchy does do.
Of course, we got the statement from the King yesterday. There wasn't a statement from Prince William, although he sort of lent his support to the King's statement. Will we hear from William? Because, of course, he is the future King.
He is. And as you rightly said, he did support the King's statement. I think there'll be lots and lots of discussions in the background. I think, again, we've got to be really careful about what happens next, because the authorities are taking the lead and investigating. It is an ongoing police investigation. And what the royal family don't want to do is hamper that in any shape or form. So I think the King has spoken out, clearly supported by the rest of the royal family, and we just need to watch and wait.
Peter Hunt, the former BBC royal correspondent, said that the arrest of the eighth in line to the throne is seismic. Senior royals are now on uncharted waters that they are ill-equipped to navigate. Do you think that's fair? Has the royal family got the team around it with the experience needed to guide them through this?
Yes, I think they do. The King's got a very, very experienced private secretary, a former diplomat who was an ambassador. He has an excellent director of communications who's an ex-journalist himself. I think he does have a very, very strong team who will advise him. So yes, I do think he's surrounded himself with the right people.
Beyond the UK, how much of a crisis is this reputationally for the monarchy when we bear in mind the huge numbers of people who visit Britain every year to see the royal palaces because of the heritage and the history? Is there a danger that this clouds that, overshadows this, impacts that?
I hope not. You rightly said. I mean, this is a story of global proportions. I've just did an interview with an Australian television station. Now it's leading on every broadcast media across the globe. Only time will tell. But the monarchy, in the hundreds of years that it's existed, has gone through many turmoils. It's gone through abdications, beheadings, a split from the Catholic Church. People were talking about the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, as the end of the monarchy. And yet in 2026, we are still standing. So I am a supreme optimist. I've seen firsthand in the 12 years that I worked for the late Queen, the extraordinary work that it does do. And I hope and pray and believe it will continue to do so.
Ailsa Anderson, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Former press secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth.